guys, it is Tristan with Nerduts Newsstand, and we are back with another bad ideas, and we are going to tackle webtoons today. How are you today, Miss Bianca?
I'm doing good. How about
I
you?
I'm good. I really liked a lot of these.
I was
I really
hoping,
did.
I was hoping that I'm like, okay, I have to narrow it down to freaking five. I have to be careful with what I choose. I'm like, oh gosh, did I choose enough genres? I did. I probably didn't. They're probably all the same. And then I looked at the links I gave you, and I'm like, oh, okay, romance, slice of life, sports, fantasy, thriller. Oh, I gave her multiple genres. Oh yeah, I have nothing to worry about.
You
And
did. There
I,
was a
yes.
no. I was just gonna say there's a couple that I'm gonna ask because I did. There's some that were okay, but you read a lot on webtoons, right?
I've mostly been using the other ones.
Tapas or
Uh,
whatever.
the what?
Is it called tapas? TAPA?
There's there's webtoons, there's tapas, which I also read. There's Leshin, which is that screenshot I sent you
Mm,
of the more interesting ones.
yes.
That's the one I mostly read. Cuz they have a free episode every 24 hours on selective web comics of ranging from all ages to more adult. So
An
I'm like, okay, cool.
SFW. Is how do you know what? I always wondered about Webtoon. I'm not sure if you would know, but before we go into the first one, how do they like there's got to be a lot of money involved as to producing these. You've got to, whether it's the same story or the same person that does the story and the art or not, lettering, everything. How do they even profit off of them?
It's pretty difficult. Obviously, if you have a team, you have to divide the profits. If it's by yourself, it's very very hard. One of them that one of them that I gave you, as soon as we talk about it, for her, how she does it, she's like, hey, you got to meet a deadline all the time, but sometimes, drawing a lot can make
Mhm.
your hands hurt so much that she would have to take constant breaks. Even if
Aw.
it's like it's a simple style, but it still takes a lot out of you. So you miss the deadline. Yeah, you're gonna have to meet the next deadline. It's a constant thing if you want to get paid. It's very hard.
Oh yeah, and some of these stories were really good. I'm used to a lot of more of the well, comic books obviously, but um superheroes, sometimes dive into the conspiratorial or the zombie type things, the
Mhm.
horror. But these were really different and really entertaining and honestly, well, let's just start. So the first one you gave me is A Fake Affair. And when I read the description, I'm like, okay. So I have actually a question about this one. Is it seen more in Japanese culture that being unmarried is kind of at, in your, I'm assuming, I think she said she was in her 30s. Is that seen as something more in a derogatory nature than it is in America?
Yes, I say this to people all the time. Japan is literally America in the 50s.
Ah,
You're a weirdo
okay.
if you don't get married. You're like, you're 30. What are you doing with your life? Get married and have kids. Like people write to you all the time in the comment section.
Oh my God,
What are you
that's so
doing? Get some
funny.
kids. And I'm like,
Get over
okay.
yourself. But this one I really, really liked. I like the art style. It was very simplistic, but it was harder for me to necessarily relate to her just because, like you said, it's in the night. It's very similar to like America in the 1950s. But once the mail came in, I was loving it. Like, is it okay? There's another question. Is it normal for them to have somebody on the side? Or
Uh, no, not really. That's still seen as like an incredible taboo because that means that your marriage is not good, and
right?
like gossip in like the neighborhoods and stuff. Like, oh my gosh, that's an actual thing. And especially like if you take the bus, you're seeing the exact same people every single day. So if the people on the bus know, they're gonna try to avoid you.
I was surprised at a little bit on this one. There's a couple of them I might follow and keep reading, and this is one of them. But I was actually surprised at some of the dialogue, how, like, blunt it was. Like,
Oh,
he was
yeah.
just like, "You wanna have an affair?" Like, she pretends to be married in this, because she's traveling, and I don't know, I just saw it as kind of refreshing to be that blunt instead of beating around the bush.
For her work, she's actually a Japanese mangaka, she's a Japanese manga author. I have some
Mhm.
of her works, I've recommended some of her works as well. The only one that got an anime was Princess Jellyfish, though, and not
I've
even the
heard of
entire
that.
series. Yep, I have talked about it before, it's only 10 episodes. I'm reading the manga compared to, like, the anime, and I'm like, "Oh, they left some stuff out," like, how her dad is, like, trans, I believe. So she doesn't really care. She writes for, like, adult women.
And
So
it's
she'll
effective.
yeah, there's even another one, oh, shoot, I got, like, 3 volumes of it. The name's escaping me right now. I think it's called Tokyo something. She also has that one, which is about 3 adult women, like, being in their 30s and having literally a midlife crisis because they're not married.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
like, what do they wanna do? And, focus on career, focus on marriage, that kinda stuff. And, the author is an absolute Chad because I'm like, "Well, why webtoon? Like, what is it?" Also, the colors are beautiful. I can finally see her work in color. And she's like, "Okay, so the reason I made a webtoon is because that means all the Korean pop idols I like are able to see my work." And I'm like, "Oh my
That's
gosh."
She did make a reference to, like, K-drama, and I'm assuming because I asked you what K-pop was, it was like, their drama. It
Yes.
was I loved it, like, I loved how, she actually built this, like, dynamic of this girl who can't get a date, but then finds this guy. I wanna know, and this is why I said I might follow it, because I wanna know if she comes and tells him the truth, that she's not married, that it was her sister's ring, and that, if she's gonna fall for him, like, I she got me interested.
You got me interested because I didn't read it yet. I wanted to see your review first.
I liked it a lot. It was really good. It was, like I said, the blunt honesty was refreshing. There's no, like, big corporation censorship. It was just like, "Hey, you down to fuck?" Like, it was just it was good. I really enjoyed that one. I can't believe you haven't read it yet. Now you have to. And a lot of the ones you sent me have a bunch of chapters ahead. Like, so I think one of them had, like, 700 or something, so there's plenty in it, and this one was, like, I don't know, I would say it wasn't my favorite. We'll get to my favorite, but it definitely was worth the read for sure.
Yes. I love it so much. I love her so much. She's so cool.
But then the next one, what the fuck, Bianca? But I don't understand this one. It was called, My Giant Nerd Boyfriend,
Yes.
and it was basically, like, her boyfriend is a foot taller than her, and what happens because of that, like, the minor inconveniences, and it took me, like, 3 minutes to read 5, because I read 5 chapters of all of these guys, 5 chapters,
Yep.
and it was, like, just a little meme almost.
Yep. She'll post a lot of memes on there.
The one I didn't
She
even understand, it was, like, a picture of a Pikachu face. I was like,
yeah,
"What did"
that's, her she does have a story for that,
Mhm.
obviously later, but her boyfriend, I believe he rather bought it or he was gifted it, and then he just ended up liking it so much he wears it all the time, but then, at one time it, like, got, like, ripped or whatever, and she was like, and she was like, "Yes, it's gone. I hate that shirt so much." And then, he got more because he likes the shirt so much and she hates it.
Oh my gosh. See, this one didn't get me. It just was, like, funny, like, amusing little blurbs. It
Slice of
didn't.
life.
Yes, and it just, like, it was very basic. I didn't really care about the character, like, honestly, it was just kind of like, "Eh, cool." Like, it was alright, it was alright, it was there. I read it, but it was just like, I get it. It's funny, he's taller and he can lift you up, but entertain me. And this one didn't near as much, I'm not gonna lie.
Which is why I said like 5 chapters, because 'cause I'm pretty sure 5 chapters is enough to where you actually like it or not instead of 3
Yes.
chapters. For me, this is, a comic that's a stress reliever. because I get to see them and their life and all that stuff, and how they like. I don't know, compared to mine. I think they live in Malaysia.
I mean, it was cute, but it wasn't something that I would necessarily find myself looking forward to. You know what I mean?
I completely understand, especially since she improved on her art style now. Aw.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the it was okay. It wasn't bad art or anything, but
It's very
it
simplistic
felt
art.
messy. Yes.
Mhm. She was the one that I was talking about who, would constantly meet deadlines and has to,
Aw.
is always her hands are hurting and stuff. She made a chapter a really long time ago, a few months ago. I say a few months ago because I haven't been keeping up with it. Her father passed away due to some stuff. One
Aw.
thing that I found very interesting is that when she was writing, drawing of how she went to a convention, not as like a guest. Wait, not as like a person buying it to like cosplay or whatever, but
Right.
like as a have a panel and everything. They have a little table and all that stuff, and people were actually surprised that her boobs were normal.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, people really went up to you and said, "Your boobs look normal." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's just the style.
Oh
It's
my
it's not
goodness.
real."
That's so funny. That was something I noticed though. The weird like U-shaped boobs. Yeah, I get it.
I think that's a charm to me.
It is. It's cute. So the next one we had was the boxer. And I like this story. I like the art, but I didn't quite how would I say this? I didn't quite understand. Sometimes it felt like maybe it was me being uncultured or whatever, but like remembering because they introduced a lot of characters right away.
Yes. Mhm.
And they kind of like one chapter would be about, the blonde haired guy or white haired guy. And then they would go to the next one. And it seems like in this one, from what I can gather, they're trying to recruit all these boxers. And it was just rather confusing. I didn't feel like this one necessarily laid it out as simplistic as some of the others. Maybe
Mhm.
I need simplistic, but this one was like it jumped back and forth between different characters too quickly for me to like gain a likeness to him. Like the one I thought I was gonna like with white hair ended up being a jackass like 2 chapters later.
I'm surprised you didn't figure that out. There usually are.
I was I was surprised. I'm like, what you were just like the underdog in this fight and I was supposed to be rooting for you and now you're an asshole. Like what happened?
Yes, they do that a lot in this comic, and then I would get frustrated because I'm like, can I read more about this person, please? But where I am, that's where the switch happens. Because they're like, oh, by the way, black haired guy. Yeah, he's not the main character. He's the one
Oh wow.
he's the one you have to defeat. And I'm like, are you
Oh, I like that
serious? And I'm
switch.
like, yo.
Cause he seemed like he was like like they both were at one point, but like he was just letting people beat him up.
Yeah.
It was weird. I'm like, dude, that shit's gotta hurt. Chill. Like, I don't felt like I got enough time with either one of them to like necessarily enjoy it as much as I should. It wasn't bad. It just was like I can't figure out their personalities. Yeah, I'm supposed to root for you now. You're a jackass. Well, why are you emo? Like, what's going on? Like, it
uh,
just felt like kind of like they were each bipolar. They were each Amber Heard.
So I'm guessing it's not there, but the black-haired kid is actually a natural, an extreme natural.
I kind of figured that he
Mhm.
was gonna be at least.
But the thing is, like, he doesn't really have a reason to fight, so he just doesn't do it.
So he felt like he had very little motivation or determination to do
Mhm.
anything.
Yeah, blonde-haired guy is actually his motivation.
Ah, so he's like, I gotta defeat this guy. Okay,
No,
that
he
may-
just he wants to fight him, because they end up being like friends or whatever. And seeing the development over time, I just see the blonde-haired guy, and every time he like works out, he's just so happy because he's like, "Oh my gosh, I gotta fight the black-haired kid! Yes, I can't believe I'm gonna like fight my friend. I can't wait till that moment comes." And I'm like, "You're so optimistic."
See, and that's what I felt like I was missing from this one, just because it felt like maybe it just wasn't enough time invested, but they
I mean, it
just
definitely
felt
happens way, way later because there's like a
yeah.
time skip and stuff that happens.
it wasn't bad. Now the next 2 are gonna be my favorite, and I'm gonna tell you why, but this one wasn't one I would even say that I would continue just because it just felt like these characters kind of were all over the place. And I'm sure
Yeah.
there's a point where it becomes centered and you can figure out what they were, but it just felt like a little messy in the beginning.
Oh yeah, definitely. I can it did I think it ends up being like that throughout the entire series. But much later in the series. I'm not even that far in, but then they'll finally focused on one character at a time and I'm like, "Thank God." But
Well,
like I
then
don't
there
want you
was
to
like
get that far though.
there was 2 side characters that I thought were gonna matter, the older man that was recruiting him and then the guy he fought in the beginning, and I'm like, "Do these characters matter? Like,
The
you're
old
not."
guy who tries to recruit him, yes.
Okay, I wondered because it was like they feel like a afterthought.
Old man guy, he's a dick.
Yeah, I kind of figured that, but, like, they just felt like they weren't important yet, and I'm like, I feel like they should be, but they're not.
I don't think so. Personally, from what I've seen so far, he he's very simple. He just wants to win. He just wants to get money. He just wants to get the championship title. That's honestly all there is to him. There's nothing deep about him. He's
My
just using
cat
the black-haired
sneezing.
kid to get bless you. He's just using the black-haired kid to get what he wants. It's very simple.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that would be okay, it just didn't feel like they were there yet where I was at.
Mhm.
And, I
A
like
lot of
the
these are
art.
very slow
Yeah,
burns.
and I like slow burns, but, it felt a little messy. The next one we gotta talk about, though, is so good. It was so good. I
Yay!
really for one, okay, this one is called The Remarried Empress, and it does what I love, and it's like Scott Snyder does this a lot, where it's like you start on something that's gonna happen. I know it's got a name for it, like an open-ended thing where you start in the future, something big happens, and then you cut back to the past, and you see how you got to that point. And he does it in Actera all the time, and that's what that opening reminded me of. These 2 empresses, or emperor and empress, getting a divorce. This is something I've heard of. They both have their own mistress okay, they both have their own side pieces. And I love for one the art style was
Yes.
stunning. This was the prettiest book that or prettiest webtoon that you sent. Like I took my time with this one because the patterns were so cool. The way that they switched from I love that chibi look. And we don't get to see that very much in American comics where like one of her friends would get or her servants would get upset and they get like all that chibi look and I love
Yeah.
that. The the art in this was spectacular, but the story was just as good. I love this like you feel bad for everyone and kind of at a point, but then when they're before they're getting a divorce, it seems to be pretty normal that the emperor gets a side piece. It seems like that's happens every generation from my understanding.
Mhm.
And I hate her so much.
Thank God.
Like I know you're supposed I mean maybe you're supposed to like her, but she annoyed me like for one, she's like a home wrecker. For
Yeah.
two, she is mm, at least from what I can gather, kind of drawn to be look more pure. And
Mhm.
she's always got like a dumb expression on her face, like hopeful, super hopeful expression on her face. And I'm like, oh my God, what is the matter with this woman? Like, and that was another one that was kind of blunt. He was just like, will you be my mistress? I'm like, okay, all
It's
right.
I'm glad you found out so early. She has a nickname, by the way, if you didn't read the comments.
No, I didn't. What's her nickname?
So her real name is Rashta.
Yeah.
We call her Trashta.
I love it. I
And
love the Empress though. Go ahead.
yes,
Who is that man? Okay, I'm
which
gonna
one?
continue
Oh,
this one because I
don't
looked
say anything.
no, I looked at chapter 6 to get ahead because I'm like, I'm gonna continue this one, but I looked because I'm like, I want her guy, from the beginning to show up. Does he at least show up? And I seen he does show up in 6. But like the way that they draw the men looks like amazing to me.
Until wait till you see the shirtless scenes and all that stuff.
That's what I'm saying. I'm here for it. But it was fantasy, slice of life, kind of awesome all rolled into one. I really, really like this story.
There was no reason that like I cannot add this series. Like it's extremely popular, especially to women for a reason. This is also
And
based on a novel.
oh, really?
A lot of these webtoons are actually, some of them are based on actual novels, and the webtoons are just like interpretations or adaptations of the novels.
I thought it was great, and I want to see where it goes. I felt bad for her servant lady. Like she had to go.
Oh,
She was put away for 3 days, but she actually like I like the Empress. She's sweet. She's heartbroken. I love the way she said she feels hollow inside and the way she described her emotions. But then when the lady comes out, the servant, she's got all of her favorite food and trying to help, like make her feel better. Like I I don't know. I kind of wanted to kick the emperor and his lady, but like give the other girl a hug. They did such a good job in 5 chapters of developing the empress enough to where you're like, yeah, she's awesome.
it's just, it's so weird because Rashta has the emperor around wrapped around her finger. She got a lot of people wrapped around her finger. She even had so many people reading it wrapped around her finger for
Oh,
about
really?
40-ish chapters. Constant fighting of, yo, don't believe Rasha. She's like, you have no idea what you're talking about. She suffered so much. I'm like, dude, she is manipulating. She's manipulating you, and you are a reader and you're falling for it. And then chapter 40 comes out and everybody was like, oh my gosh, how could I have not known? I'm like, everybody was telling you and you were fighting us for it. Use like I'm not sure if they said this about her yet, but I'm just gonna say it. Apparently, she used to be a slave
Yes, they did
of
say
some
that.
sort. So, like, people were defending her in the comments of being a slave, and they're like, Why would you defend this behavior?" Well, she was a slave and she had a hard life, and I'm like, that is not an
No.
excuse.
It seems
And now that
their
you,
interpretation of slave is more like indentured servant.
yeah, and it was very frustrating to finally convince these people being a slave has nothing to do with it. You can't act like this. It's not good. Don't defend it. And now they're finally like, oh my gosh, I'm so surprised. And I'm like, we're not.
That's so funny. And it's got a lot of chapters, so I'm like, yes, this is awesome. I really like it. And I got to the part where, oh my god, she walks in. And for one, it said in the earlier chapters that she wouldn't have to see her, right? The mistress is going to be around, but she's not allowed to go to big functions. She's not, and she already ran into her once. And then she barges into her room and says, "You're my big sister." I was like, "Get the fuck out of here!"
Yes. I was like, yo, what the heck you saying? Shut your mouth. That's disgusting.
I know, like we have the same husband, so now you're my sister. I wanted to be like, "Bitch, what? Go, go back to wherever you came from." I don't like her. I didn't like her at all. I'm not surprised. I am surprised that people actually fell for that. Like, it was clear she's kind of being well, not kind of. She definitely got some manipulation tactics going on.
She's so good at it. Apparently. Because it's going to get
Uh,
more frustrating, especially with the Emperor later on. You're going to be seeing so much sexist things in here.
he was so annoying though. Like, he wouldn't let her ask questions at dinner. I'm like,
Mhm.
excuse me, because in the beginning they started out like we were this, young love, and we've known each other since we were born, and we were betrothed, and now let's get a divorce. Like, it was just like, whoa, that changed quick. And they're at dinner, and she's like asking questions. He's like, that's enough. I'm like, excuse me, what? Like, nah. He was super annoying, but I love her.
I remember
I
playing the
just
game version of this.
wait. There's a game.
There was a dating sim version of this, yeah. The style is very different. The story was also a little bit different from the webtoon and the novel. And it's like, so you can go with the prince you're about to divorce, or you can go with the original guy that you're divorcing your the emperor for. And so it was very frustrating to play through. It's like, even when I was trying to what's it called? Be not biased
Right.
and try to keep the peace with the Emperor, he still got angry at me, and I'm just like, screw you, buddy. I'm going with the other guy now. I tried my best, and the webtoon is very similar to that too.
Well, that's a shame they changed the style because the style is so pretty.
They wanted to
So
go with a
pretty.
more, I don't know if I should say realistic
Ah,
style,
okay.
and I stopped that game because like the realistic styles are so freaking ugly in this game. They're
Ah.
nightmare fuel. I've never seen uglier men in my life.
Oh no.
The eyes stare at your soul, and I'm like, oh no, why is this the abuser look more handsome than the one you're supposed to be with? No.
I love the new prince that's coming in, or I think he's a prince. Um,
Yes.
his style is real. I love it. I think like it's way better than the emperor's in my opinion.
Oh, so handsome.
Yes, he looked so good. I was surprised at how much I liked it. It was so good. And I've seen other like webtoons get really big, like Laura Olympus, I believe it is. And
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe I need to start giving these things a chance because wow, this one kind of won me over.
Oh, there's you know, we talked about him before. Steven
Steven Sajik.
Sajek. Yeah,
Hmm.
his wife does Plunder World, which is like, think of Lore Olympus, but her interpretation of it.
Ooh,
I'm loving that right now, and it's very cute. I love her interpretation.
I
I
thought
like
they
how
did
she's
one
like,
called Aphrodite or something. Also,
oh,
I could be
maybe I'll check
wrong.
that one out.
I could be
Because
wrong.
Sunstone is also on here, I believe.
Is it?
Yeah, a couple of their works are on here. Obviously,
I,
nothing DC.
right, right. Well, the Wayne family stuff, but like, um, I love Steven Sajak. His work is so good and his style is so pretty.
I'm very this is the first time I've seen like a husband and wife have very similar art styles. It's kind of weird.
I wonder. See, what's her? Sean Gordon Murphy and his wife Katana Collins are very similar. I wonder if it's like working side by side so often helps.
She has a name.
Who?
Katana.
Oh, Katana Collins. Yeah, she did the Harley mini in the White Knight universe, and she's so good. I love it.
Oh, that was what?
Yeah, that was her.
Did they like teach them or something like
I
that?
don't
Like,
know.
you
It's
shall be taught in
amazing.
my art.
It's amazing how close it is. You wouldn't even know any difference unless you actually look. It's amazing. I love it. So the last one we have here is another one I may continue reading. It's just Bastard.
Yes.
And I like the twist, even though we find out the twist a little bit early. So it's basically like serial killer, right? A thriller. And at first I thought it was like the kid was the son was the murderer during when his father was going away because he said all the dates to the teacher. And I was like, okay, so you're doing this while your dad's away. And then come to find out, his dad is this mass fucking murderer. And he has to, in order to basically survive, help his dad.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty good. Like, I felt bad for the fucking kid, even though obviously he's doing something very, very wrong. But I felt bad for him because he's getting beat up again at school and he kind of doesn't care. It's very weird to me. Like, I don't. He's got a glass eye. They just kept calling him something about his glass eye kid,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, then come to find out, it was actually his dad's fault that he's got the glass eye. From my understanding,
Yes.
like this guy is walking around preaching love, kindness, and compassion, and then literally being like, oh, now I know. Okay, so I just realized when he yelled, I just realized when he got beat up and he was in the hospital, that girl saved him.
Mm-hmm.
And I just realized why he got so mad at her. He yelled at her so his dad didn't see him.
Yes.
But he did. And now this girl that saved his son is the new culprit or the new target, so to speak, for the father. Do you ever find out why he's doing all this, or is he just
Yes.
completely okay? Because I'm like,
Uh
there's got to be a point.
Well, for like the rest of the people, he just kills them. Even in the beginning, the kid tries to let the teacher know. He tries to give her hints, uh, of like his dad is a murderer or that there's teachers being killed and stuff. And he was like, "Hey, what do you think the day is?" And she's like, "What?" And they're like, "Why do you think all the people are missing, like literally on this day all the time?" And she was like, "I don't know what you mean." And he's like, "Oh, dang it."
And then
And
he's
so
got to go
he,
get that mallet.
yeah. So for her, the girl specifically, he it reminds the father of his wife.
Oh yeah, he did say that. It looks like your mother, and he got mad. He's like, no, they look nothing alike. So that's the only reason. See, that's what I'm like. There's got to. What is he building a woman? Like, there's got to be a reason.
I haven't even gotten to that part yet, but I have a couple of like theories whether he wants to toy with her or he just wants to spend time torturing her.
Oh, that's so fucking dark. She's like 17, isn't she?
Nah, they're all pretty young.
Oh,
They're
I
like
thought they were.
15 or something like that.
It's so dark. They
Yeah,
did
they're
mention.
all pretty small for their age.
So does he? Okay, this is gonna be a really weird question, but I'm just gonna ask because they mentioned it in the book or in the webtoon. There, one person suggests at school that these women were raped. Is that ever talked about again, or is that something he? Because he goes, he said, "If I say it, it happens." Was he just being hyperbolic, or is this just about like sadistic torture?
I feel like it's mostly about sadistic torture. They do not, they haven't mentioned it again
Okay,
from where I am.
I think I may have, because I read it twice and I'm like, are they trying to rule that out of your mind so you just think this is torture? And I think that's probably what they were going for. But like, I love the aesthetic of. There's a couple parts. I think it was this one where it like did like went a little bit darker, like a flashback when he was young,
Mhm.
and it shows all the stuff that happens. And then I love the aesthetic of the way that they're drawn, the way that this kid like almost is emotionless, it looks like.
Reminds me of me.
That's oh my gosh. Wait, is there something you need to tell us about your parents, Bianca?
Uh, Typical Latino parents.
Yeah, right. It was just like, I don't know, this was one that kept. It wasn't necessarily that I was in love with the characters, like, I felt bad for the son, but I also feel like it's kind of that way kinda like a bullshit excuse, "Well, my dad's gonna hurt me if I do anything." Well, if you went to the police, they'd protect you until they found the
No.
evidence. No?
Mm-mm.
They rule that out?
Yeah. Well, no. His dad is like a figure of some sort. So his
Oh,
dad
see, I
has
didn't.
leverage.
That makes more sense, because I'm like, "Why couldn't he just report this?" But if he's got somebody bought and paid in his pocket, then that makes sense, and they also showed the picture or the tutor sign
Hmm.
when he rips it down, and I don't know if that was in like yen, or it was a lot of money. Like, I knew
It's in
I knew
Korea, so it's Korean money. I don't think it's Japan. I don't think they're in Japan.
I think they trying to establish that they, had a decent, that they were well off, at least
Yeah.
from my understanding.
Oh yeah. They definitely did. But the kid is forced to be malnourished.
What the fuck is wrong? That's so dark.
Yeah. The reason is because he
Oh, is that why he
realized.
got mad at him when for exercising?
Yes, it's because he knows that he's a boy and he's very young, and he will grow up big and strong someday, and he's getting older and he will get weaker when he gets older, and that's the reason why he doesn't want his son exercising or eating healthy foods, because he doesn't want his son to become stronger than him. There's a part where they're arm wrestling, and the son starts winning a little bit, and he's like,
Oh,
wow, you're growing so big and strong, and he got scared by that, and he just let his dad win.
aha! That makes that last little bit make a lot more sense now. Because I'm like, why are you hiding that you're doing push-up or yeah, push-ups? I'm like, that's a good thing, and I'm like, okay,
If the dad
well,
finds out that he's working out, he will be killed for it.
wow. That makes a lot more sense now. I think there was a couple things I just need to go a few more chapters in, which I'm fully planning on it with the last two. But there was a couple things with that I was confused about, but now that makes sense. Yeah, like the idea that this man could be that, like, he doesn't have him around because he loves his kid. He has him around as like a lackey, like to do the dirty work.
Mhm.
So fucked up, but I kind of love it at the same time.
Yeah, this is I'm like, "Oh, I know Daniela Sarmento, I believe the channel is." She commented before, she was recommending everybody, Bastard, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm reading it." I'm like, "Oh, she has really good taste," and I'm like, "Oh," and I remember that she wanted to recommend it to you, so I'm like, "I'm enjoying it, so I'm going to give it to Tristan too."
That Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed, like, 2 out of 5 to continue reading for a person that doesn't read webtoons is pretty good. Like, generally, I kind of like it too, because if I get more into webtoons and I'm getting like what I would normally get from the other indies, then I save money. Like, even when I was buying Wade and Family Adventures, it was super cheap.
Yeah, I
Like,
still have 48 coins left. I'm caught up and I'm sad now.
I think I still have some left too, because I bought all the Wayne, like, there was like a deal the first time you get it $10, you get so many coins. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get these and I'm gonna read ahead, and it only lets you read 3 chapters ahead. Well, then I forgot about it for like 2 months, and I'm like, oh, oh yeah. So now I have them for the new webtoons that are coming, and I kind of want to like explore the app, because if there's this kind of stories that are already, like, I know you're giving me top recommendations. You've already kind of sewn out the bad stuff. But like, there's got to be some really interesting stories on here if I'm already this interested. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the creator who did Remarried the Remarried Empress, she also has another one she's doing. Shoot, what was it called? Men of the Harem or something like that. So, kind of some similarities.
Mhm.
The only difference is that so it's about this woman, her family died, so she's next in line. um she wanted to marry this guy, but apparently the guy was betrothed already
Uh-huh.
and didn't tell her, so she found out extremely late. And she was like, "Oh, okay, so I'm just going to get my revenge, and the way I'm going to get my revenge is I'm going to have a harem."
What's a harem again? I know you told me before. I just forget.
She has tons of dudes.
Okay, that's what I thought. And then, because you told me about the, isn't prison school a reverse harem?
No,
I try. I try to keep
definitely
these
not.
terms straight. Okay, okay, I'm wrong. I know there's something else that's a reverse harem, because I had people when I was talking about Why the Last Man, like, manga did it first. Like, okay, all right, I gotta get used to the terms, I guess.
So like for her, because she is a woman, usually for women they would have one consort, I guess you could say. But for men, they were always allowed to have multiple. And so she's like, okay, so I'm choosing five consorts. And they're like, but you're a woman. Like it's always like they were always like supposed to have like one. And she's like, so all these men get to have these women consorts. I can't have men consorts with, like, what's up with that? Am I not the ruler right now? Can I not choose what I want? And so they're like, "Oh, okay, you choose five." And funny enough, one of them is the guy's brother.
Wait, what? The two brothers are in it?
um, so the guy she had a
Oh,
crush
the
on for a
original
very long
guy.
time. Yeah, he has a brother, and the brother he's pretty dumb. He misunderstands a lot.
Hmm.
So he kind of volunteered himself to be one of the consorts. And she's
Uh-huh.
like, "Oh, that's kind of weird. Is he a spy? Just to spy on the for the brother or something like that?" But he thinks that she has a major crush on him. Uh, and she's like, "No, but I will choose you to be my
Nah.
consort."
That's awesome. I kind of love it.
The
Like,
only thing is that it was a little bit frustrating because, like, I'm on chapter like 46 out of 67, and I'm like, "Yo, when are you gonna have sex with these guys?" And then I have,
like,
and then
get it
I'm like,
on.
and because everybody was frustrated with that too. He's like, you have 5 guys, you haven't kissed them, you haven't done nothing. All you do is sleep in their room because you're so tired from work and all that stuff. And then everybody's like, wait, guys, we have to think about this. This is back in the day where you didn't have freaking condoms and stuff to prevent, uh, getting kids. And everybody's like, oh, you're right, you're right.
Yeah.
And so she finally kissed one of them. Not the one I wanted her to kiss, but okay, fine. I
I
already have a
I
favorite guy in this.
I'm gonna have to check it out because I really like it. I never, besides like I read Sunstone separately, not on the app, but besides Wayne Family Adventures, I never dove into these stories because first off, it was a vertical, right? I wasn't used to that type of metric to read on. Now it's freaking like I read some of them on my phone, I read some of them on my computer. Both ways were totally fine. I don't know why I ever didn't like it before. And I actually love that they're kind of bite-sized adjustable pieces. So if you're just, you have 5 minutes, you can probably get a chapter done depending on the length because they're all a little different. But like normally like a comic book's like 23 pages. It's going to take you a few minutes to read. But if you just I love the way that they separate this, so to speak, in that format. How would they so we talked a minute ago about Lore Olympus, how it's, I know it sold a bunch, it was one of the best sellers in December. How do they take something like this that's vertical and translate it so it can be in print format?
There is a way. The way exists. I think you have to do like probably a lot of like what's it called? Converting.
Yeah, a lot of Photoshop or something. That would be
Mhm.
hard. I might have to check more out. I really like it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm glad I checked. I'm glad this was your idea. I'm glad we went into it because it was really good. You got any other titles that I should check out?
Yes, I do.
You're like, yes.
There's this one I'm reading. It's I don't know if I would call it steamy, but it's probably a little bit more messed up than I thought it would be. So I guess I want to see how you think about it.
Ooh, I love it.
Oh, they also have
I,
stuff like on the if you go to like the comic and you and you click on like what's it called, the little eye for info, I guess.
mhm.
Like sometimes if the creator wants to say something, they'll say it. Like this person said, I dreamed of making comics as a kid. I gave up on that dream for a while, but I eventually became a comic creator. My tastes aren't mainstream, but I like to think it's more fun that way when I work on comics. And I'm looking at the stuff that she's like freaking writing, and I'm like, yes, I can definitely say yours is definitely more interesting than mainstream ones right now. I mean, you
Yeah.
have people who turn into cats, you have people who turn into dogs. There's
There's
a
no rules. There's no people going, "Oh my god, this Mary Sue. Oh my god, they ruined this." No. It's just dumb fun and that's what I love.
mhm. There's another one that's a sports one where it's an all girls educational institute specializing in MMA, and a
Ooh.
very special freshman enrolling this year. And then there's a person who fears women and being abandoned by his mother. And he's about to find out what girls are really all about in this action-packed school drama.
I like it cuz I don't normally like I'm not a sports person. I didn't think I was going to like the boxing story, but I even with it not being one of my favorite, I was invested enough even though I don't give a shit about boxing. Like I like the range from insanity to normalcy to slice of life to horror. Like it feels like it's like no holds barred as compared to like mainstream kind of vanilla comics. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I kind of love that. It's refreshing to be honest with you.
Oh, you were saying something about Aphrodite?
Aphrodite, yeah.
I found it. Yeah, it's the arts by Steven Sajek.
I knew it. Now I got to go back. See, I knew I had it on there when I was reading Wayne Family Adventures and I forgot about it and I needed room on my phone so I deleted the app. I re-downloaded it the other day. So I'm like, I got to go back and read it. I didn't appreciate him before. I love Steven Sajak. He's honestly like DC should have never let that man go. Not only is he a talented writer, but he's a talented artist. Crazy good. Like,
I thought he left because of health issues.
see, I don't know because originally he said he was leaving because he wanted to do more independent stuff, and I'm like, cool, more webtoons, right? Like more
Hmm.
that not Sunstone type stuff. And I don't know now. I love him because like every time he has a new volume of Sunstone coming out, he'll give you the PDFs of the old ones. Like he just wants his work out there, and I think that's what I respect about it. Like his passion is there for his work, and you will clearly see it coming out in Sunstone or fine print. You will see the passion explode a few
Oh,
times.
also, one thing I like about webtoons is that anybody can do it, like all around the world. And if you're inspired from manga or
Mhm.
anime, like they will put like a lot of the tropes on there too, and sometimes they'll spin it to make it more interesting.
I have the Shonen Jump app, and I honestly like I read some, but I never go back to it. This I could see myself using a lot more. I feel like this has way more I don't know. I just I this has a lot more variety. It seems like it's almost like at least from what you've given me, like better storytelling. I can't get into manga, but this isn't really manga. This is kind of like manga. Is it? I don't
It's
know.
manhwa,
What's that?
comics, but in Korea,
Okay.
and
All right.
some Chinese. If you, I don't know if you can tell the difference between Korean names and Chinese
I
names.
can't. I'm so
So,
white.
um, I don't know, maybe I'll give you some examples because I'm really picky with Chinese comics. There's so many that are so freaking bad that one
Oh
time I'll
no.
actually read a good one and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is Chinese and this is from a Chinese creator and it's actually good." Do you know how hard it is to find a good one? I'm seeing all these people find good ones and I'm like, "Please tell me, where do you find these? Why am I having such a hard time?" There was one Chinese one that I was reading. So this girl has a she's an empress. She has a what's it called? She has a husband who's an
Mhm.
emperor. Emperor dies, and he is reincarnated into one of her consorts. Uh, and the series was called like the Empress is cucking me or something like that. And so
Shut up.
he's being annoyed. He's like, "Oh my gosh, how can the Empress cuck me like this?" And everybody in the comments is like, "You're dead."
Oh my
What do
god.
you mean? You're not being cucked if you're dead. That makes no sense. And then there was one where this girl goes into this leopard clan, and but they're not leopards, they're all cheetahs.
Oh
And
my god.
I'm like, "Do you guys know the difference between a leopard and a cheetah?"
Mhm.
I thought it was a mistranslation, but then I, like, looked it up and did research or whatever, and I'm like, "Nope, they literally think this is what leopards look
Oh my
like."
god.
And,
Basic research, guys.
it was so weird because, apparently, I do know, like, in some Asian countries, having freckles
Mhm.
can be seen as, like, you're ugly or something.
What? Freckles
So,
are adorable.
I know, right? And so, the leopard guy was like, "Hi, so I want to have tons of sex with you, but so do the other people in the leopard clan. You have to make yourself look ugly." And she's like, "Okay, fine." And so she grabs like some like what is it, dirt or ink or something like that, and she makes dots on her face and she gives herself freckles. She's like, "Okay, I'm ugly now, right?" And I'm like, "No, you look pretty adorable right now." And he was like, "Yeah, you're super ugly." And
Oh
I'm like,
my
"What?"
gosh.
And I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "Girl, just go away. Do you wanna stay or do you wanna go?" He's like, "Oh my gosh, I want to leave so bad," but they don't leave. And I'm like, "Stop complaining about it then. Don't say you wanna leave and then you stay." I don't
My
there's
goodness.
so much bad ones, man, that I read and I suffered through. I'm like, maybe chapter 10, 15, 20, it'll get better. No, no,
It
it
just doesn't get
hasn't.
better. Oh my
No.
god, that's so funny though. Like the craziness. I love the craziness. It's so refreshing. It's so good.
So who knows? Maybe a part 2 will come later.
Yes, I think we should. I'm not gonna lie, like I really enjoyed the different when's the last I mean, I know we got Dark Knights of Steel, but like when's the last time we had something even related to any of these? Even similar. I love it. I love it. It's so nice for once not to just be like, okay, well, Batman's in Gotham. He's gonna get the Joker. Like it was cool. I loved it. We definitely got to do a part two.
Oh, wait, question. You
Yes.
don't follow Foamy the Squirrel on YouTube, do you?
What is it called?
Foamy the Squirrel?
No, I have no idea what that is.
Oh my gosh. Uncultured swine.
I
Uh
know.
anyway, like he's my favorite YouTuber. He actually helped shape the way I view things since like middle school. Of course, I didn't look at his adult stuff in middle school because I actually had to get a YouTube account and be 18 plus. So I waited till I was 18 plus to actually view his content.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, man, he had no filter. But of course, because of the way YouTube is nowadays, he has to censor a lot of his stuff now or get rid of them. Unfortunately,
Yep.
he's been there for like almost 20 years now. Like he started a Newgrounds, the website and all that stuff. I would recommend looking up the comic on Webtoons because he has that, and I didn't know. And even though he likes, he's like, yeah, I have a comic on Webtoons because he can't be able to. It's hard to do on YouTube,
Right.
so he puts
Oh
them
yeah.
there. So the mostly what his stuff way before was about this this squirrel called Foamy, and he wants to rule the world and dominates humans because humans are stupid, and
Oh my gosh.
he is living with like an annoying feminist.
Oh my gosh.
And she's those hypocritical feminist type, and then she also tries to be goth and emo at the same time.
Oh no.
Like honestly, there are some stuff where I'm like, I can kind of agree with her on this.
Right.
But over the years of watching him, I just saw like him going from what he does, and he's still doing the same thing, but now he's being called woke for it.
Oh, of course.
Oh, it's like
Of
because
course.
for the girl, her name is Jermaine. She started out like very skinny, very gothy, and all that stuff, and then life crisis happens or whatever. There was one time she was like getting fat. There was one time where her butt got bigger and her boobs got bigger, and he would get fan mail and he would like read it on the YouTube, and they're like, "Hey, dear Foamy,
Oh, I just
can
looked it up.
we?"
I've seen this before.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had a feeling you had at least like some you viewed it at least one time,
Yes, I have.
and they were like, "Hey, can we see more of her like boobs or legs or butt and all that stuff?" And he would insult them, and be like, like, "Shut up, you chubby chaser," or whatever. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
He would insult them in the worst way, and he's still doing that because people still ask for it and send him letters about it, and he's called woke now for it. And I'm like, no, he's always done this. Why is he being called woke now? That makes no sense. He always
It
insulted you guys for thinking that she was any had some sort of attractiveness and that you were wanting her to be naked when he's like, no. He will when he wants to, because he also makes his own comics, and I bought one. I bought two. Heck yeah.
that's awesome.
And so he's doing more of a cutesy art style, but for on YouTube he had to like, what's it called, minimize the boobs
Oh yeah.
size a lot. So like when he's doing his comic stuff, he'll just do whatever size he wants.
Yeah, I know I've seen this before. I know I have. I'm gonna have to watch one. When it comes to that woke stuff, though, it's just a label to be. It's just a pejorative to try to discredit someone, even if they never ever change, like you said with him. It doesn't matter. People are gonna do that. That's just silly. I'm gonna check him out though.
I know
Now I want to see.
Robert watches him too. Robert is a man of culture, that's why.
I know. I'm like a baby on the internet. I watch like I'm a creature of habit. I've got like Perch and a couple other channels. You, Robert, yeah. I'm just a creature of habit.
There's this hypocrisy video that you should check
I
out.
just seen that was the first one that came up. Hypocritical media.
Yes.
I that was the first one that popped up. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like something I'd be interested
That
in.
and his dating advice video is very
Oh my
old,
gosh,
but like I watched it constantly and I'm like, I am the way that I am today because of this video.
that's hilarious. I'm gonna have to check it out. I definitely am. I know I've seen it before. I know I have. I guess I didn't realize what Foamy the squirrel was until I typed it in.
Yes, I love his rants about humans.
That's awesome. Okay, we are gonna wrap up. Is there anything that I missed before we go?
I don't think so.
I know you got a video out this week. You have anything planned for, well, next week now, but when this airs, it'll be this week.
I will say nothing. Just wait for my next little short video of new indie comics.
Sounds good to me. Yes, and we get a break from Amber Heard trial this week, so a
Really?
little bit of norm. Yeah, there's no trial this week, so a regular morning brew, a regular freaking everything this week. I mean, I'll still report on the trial, but no like craziness this week. Thankfully, I need the week off.
Maybe I'll go live in like 20,000 years, you know.
Maybe I can just like, be like, "Hey, Bianca, join me." Yeah, that sounds good. All right, guys, we make sure you guys check out Bianca's link in the description and subscribe, like all that fun stuff, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.